This academic success module explores note-taking. Taking notes for college courses is a common study practice. All college students are expected to know how to take notes and how to use them for studying, though few have been formally trained efficiently. Our goal in this module is to enhance your knowledge and understanding of efficient note-taking methods. College students take notes in a variety of situations, while watching videotaped or in-person lectures, while participating in webinars, and while reading. Part of why we take notes as college students is because notes help us keep accurate records of the material we are learning. We also take notes because they serve as valuable tools that help us process and follow lectures and encode the material we're learning into our memories. When we take notes, we are able to collect more information and draw connections between topics and ideas we study. Part of what makes note-taking effective for remembering is the organizational process of note-taking. It's important to organize our notes in a way that shows relationships between content. This will likely increase comprehension. One way to help organize our notes is to leave spaces where we can add information later. As with all our modules, this next section explores basic information from the field of cognitive psychology. Our goal in including this section is to provide you with information about how our brains work to give you a deeper understanding of how note-taking can impact your learning and memory. When learning to take notes more efficiently, you will want to begin making choices about the content you are learning by thinking about your own thinking, the process of metacognition. Edward Vogel defines metacognition as the learner's awareness of their own knowledge and their ability to understand, control, and manipulate their own cognitive processes. As note-takers, you have the responsibility to make choices in how you take your notes, as well as how you evaluate your own note-taking strategies and performance. One way to begin assessing note-taking and learning is to look at note-taking within the greater study cycle. In this module, we've placed note-taking into 3 sections of the study cycle: previewing, attending the task, and reviewing. You can start previewing by identifying relevant text or concepts. You will scan chapter headings and read the introduction and summary of the chapter. It's important to pay attention to the keywords and diagrams. You'll also want to come up with questions you want to answer. By previewing the material with these tasks, you will familiarize yourself with the information to help you follow along with the lecture and develop a framework to take notes. Next comes the step when you begin to actively take notes during the lecture or study activity. You'll want to listen actively and find answers to your questions. Taking these notes will help you record relevant information and synthesize the material. While listening, you can write details that explain the keywords and headings you previewed. You'll also want to note the information your instructor emphasized. Note-taking requires us to make complex choices about material while listening, studying, or observing. Choosing what is most important to write down and investigate further requires a higher level of thinking that will help build up the material in our memories. Your role as a student note-taker is important. As the decision maker, you have the responsibility of determining which pieces of the lecture are most important. You decide what needs to be written down and what format to use. A good practice when taking notes on reading or lectures is to write down questions we have over content or concepts shared during the initial presentation. Revisiting these questions will give us an opportunity to think about what we had trouble understanding and seek out answers to help us understand. Metacognition requires us to partake in a process of self-questioning and reflection that will help us monitor our learning outcomes so we know what we are learning. Step 3 of our note-taking process is the process of reviewing our notes. When reviewing, you'll fill in the gaps and correct misunderstandings you've had from reading or listening to the lecture. You can do this by revisiting the textbook or consulting the professor, TA, or your classmates. You will also want to put the main ideas of lectures into your own words. Research shows that the process of taking notes helps encode information in the short-term working memory. But to move the information from the short-term to the long-term memory, students need to revisit the material by reviewing their notes on a more consistent basis. After you've taken notes, revisit them the following day or later in the week. Try to summarize the main concepts or turn your notes into study questions or review materials. A step beyond review is to engage in critical thinking and reflection. Possible questions you can ask yourself about your own note-taking process include: How did I take notes during the lecture? Why did I take notes the way I did? Am I satisfied with my notes? If I were taking these notes again, what would I change? Why? Do I take notes the same way in all of my classes? Why do I do that? In this section of the module, we offer you examples of how to take notes. Though there are many more ways to take notes, we've focused on 4: Cornell notes, outline, mind mapping, and using the matrix. The first method of note-taking is the Cornell method for note-taking. To take notes the Cornell way, you're going to divide your paper into 3 sections. You'll start by drawing a horizontal line across the bottom of the page. Next, you'll draw a vertical line 2/3 away across the page to the bottom line. This line separates where you'll put the main content of your notes, on the right, from the questions and extremely important notes on the left. The bottom section will hold your summary. Next, you'll want to add the title and date in the right section of the paper. During the lecture, you'll start recording information on the right. You'll write questions that arise on the left side. A key component of Cornell notes is the summary. You'll write out a summary of your notes on the bottom of the page after your lecture, reading, or other activity. The summary helps you recall and synthesize the information you've just heard and may help you see gaps in your own understanding. The second method for note-taking is creating an outline. Outlines are useful for organizing information in a sequential fashion. Outlines are particularly useful for taking notes in a very organized or linear lecture. To create an outline for your lecture, you will start out by writing the title of your lecture. Next, you will write capital A and the first main idea point of the lecture. Underneath, you will add supporting details with lowercase letters. Creating an outline for your lecture is much easier when you've done the reading beforehand. This is because you'll have a better idea of what's coming. Outline notes vary in organization. You'll want to organize them with some form of hierarchy. Key ideas and themes will have more emphasis and will have capital letters. Supporting ideas and details will be indented with lowercase letters. Some students prefer to use Roman numerals or bullet points. This is fine as long as the note taker is organizing the information based on importance. The third method of note-taking is mind mapping. To create a mind map, draw a circle or an oval in the center of your notes page. Write in the topic or theme of the lecture or chapter you're reading. From there, you can create bubbles for subheadings. Next, you will add ideas and details from the lecture or reading. Many people use mind mapping to help brainstorm topics before writing papers or preparing for presentations. When used as a note-taking device, mind mapping allows students to create visual representations of the subject matter for their learning purposes. By writing out the information in a visual format, students can see the main themes of the topic and make connections between subheadings. Mind mapping allows students to organize information that could be presented in a disorganized or random lecture format. The fourth method of note-taking is done by using a matrix. The matrix allows you to organize your learned material in a visual format. Taking notes in a matrix helps you classify and distinguish the relationships between material and ideas. You'll start by making space for headings and questions. You'll draw a horizontal line at the top and a vertical line down the left side of your paper. These will be your margins. Next, you will adapt the remainder of the paper into a matrix. To do this, you'll draw evenly spaced vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. Now you have your matrix. Because we have 3 topic areas and 3 questions, we made a matrix with 9 squares. Depending on your content, the size of your matrix may differ. Now it is time to fill in the matrix. In the top margins, you'll want to fill out the main topics you will cover. In side margins, you'll write out questions you want to answer about the main topics. While you read, listen to lectures, or watch videos, you will write information in the matrix. When the matrix is complete, you have a study guide that can help you see relationships between different ideas and concepts. We've gone through the rationale behind taking notes as well as the 4 methods we recommend for note-taking. Now it's time to discuss the problems that may arise as we take notes and how we recommend you troubleshoot those issues. We hope that by talking through these common problems, you will develop the tools and mindset you need to be successful in your note-taking process. There are several questions that come up about note-taking for college students. Some of the most asked questions are here. What can I do when the professor talks too quickly? What can I do when my professor has a style of speaking that is difficult to understand? How can I follow along if the lecture is disorganized or hard to follow? What can I do if the professor provides PowerPoint notes? How do I take notes on a discussion rather than a lecture? The first concern was about what to do when the professor talks too quickly. When you're concerned that your instructor talks too fast, it's important to first ensure that you are preparing well for the lecture. As you become more familiar with the subject matter, you'll be able to pick out key points and conduct a thorough preview of the material covered. It also helps to take notes on the required readings and have them available during the lecture. It's very important to make sure you're not trying to write down everything the professor is saying. Make decisions about what to take notes on. If you feel that you are missing key points of the lecture, compare notes with a classmate. You'll be able to catch things that you may have missed. Another piece of advice is to leave spaces in your notes that you can fill in later. Communicating with your professor is also an option. Refer to your notes and ask for help filling in the information you missed. Sometimes, when you talk to your professors outside of lecture, you'll become more used to the way they speak. If you've tried some of these and still feel that you're missing information, try listening to the lecture again. The second concern was about what to do when the professor has a style of speaking that you have difficulty understanding. Sometimes this happens. You're in a new class and your professor has a different style of speaking than you're used to hearing. The most important thing to remember in this case is that you can't give up. With time, we can train ourselves to adapt to different styles of speaking. As mentioned previously, preparedness for class helps dispel much of the confusion students experience in their classes. The third concern is about how to follow along if the lecture is disorganized. One thing you can do for any lecture is to be prepared. The more you know about the subject matter, the better off you will be. When you do the required reading beforehand, you will have a better idea of what you can expect in the lecture. Though you may feel that the lecture is disorganized, you will have a good idea of the subject matter and can create a mind map to help you follow the material and take notes. Another useful technique is to have your reading notes on hand when listening to the lecture, so you can fill in details and clarify concepts. The fourth concern is about what to do with the PowerPoint notes your professor gives you as a guide. Some, but not all, professors provide their lecture PowerPoints for their courses. The important thing for students to know is that the PowerPoint is just a guide. Students still need to take notes on the information presented during the lecture. When you print out the slides in a 3-slide format, you'll have the information from slides on the left and have lines to write notes on the right. Most often, lecture slides will have minimal information. Thus, taking notes on the slide printouts could be beneficial for you. If you decide to take notes in this format, make sure to write down questions you have about content material so you can review this information and find answers later. Students sometimes ignore class discussions when taking notes. We tend to focus on the professor and do not write down the thoughtful information our classmates share through the class discussions. However, if we incorporate information from discussions in our notes, we will give ourselves more to process and think about as we gather content and make conclusions. Based on this academic success module on note-taking, what are 3 strategies you can implement to improve the way you take and use notes? Thank you for joining us for this note-taking module. Please visit our website at success.oregonstate.edu/learning-corner for more information on study tips.